I love watching, being a spectator in the whole music industry, and that's constantly changing. I think it's almost a necessity for music to still exist, to constantly change. The only constant is change. Also goes for music.
That's true.
We people are human. We like to put things into boxes, right? This is trance, this is house, this is techno, whatever. But it's funny that music only becomes interesting as soon as you start combining elements from different styles.
Hello and welcome to the Musicians Tell Me Secrets podcast, episode 2, the only podcast that tells you which musicians have been to Epstein's child sex trafficking island. No, can you imagine? Oh, man. A lot of people dying over that, man. A lot of people dying because of the secrets they know. Don't want to get involved in that shit. Anyway, my name is Ryan Stabile, former music journalist and keeper of secrets. Here's how the podcast works. I will tell you a quick story about a time with a specific artist or event, and we listen to an interview from that artist from back in the days of normalcy, and before everyone was dying in the streets. We laugh, we learn, and most importantly, we don't get coronavirus from listening to this podcast. I actually had a doctor come in here yesterday, and, he tells me he had to shut down 54 podcasts in the last week just because, they were giving people the Rona. People were catching the Rona from shitty podcasts. So, and he tells me, man, I gotta admit, I was nervous when I first came in here, but, you run a tight ship. And it's going to be smooth sailing from here on out. Because your podcast doesn't give people Rona like all the other ones do. Anyway, today's interview is with Armin van Buuren. Armin van Buuren is a trance DJ and music producer. There is a difference, I've learned. There is a difference. Not many people know this about Armin, but he occasionally likes to dabble in sex trafficking. No, that's not true at all. Well, not that I know of. What if in 3 years from now it comes out that Armin is actually, he actually has an underground sex trafficking ring and it's like 5 times bigger and crazier than Epstein's was? I don't know anything, so plausible deniability. For those who don't know, and this is true, actually, this part's actually true. Armin van Buuren shows draw fucking massive crowds, and he'll often perform for like 8 or more hours at a time. He's a really chill dude, he's really cool, really down to earth. He's a Dutch DJ, and he's been nominated for a Grammy or 2, I don't really know. For almost 20 years now, he's hosted this international radio show called A State of Trance, in which I guess he just plays different he's basically, it's like a 2-hour DJ set over the radio, and they played it in like 84 different countries on over 100 different radio stations and to 40 million listeners out there in Radio Land. So this interview with Armin took place at EDC 2016. It took place at the EDM Biz Expo, which happened literally just before the first day of Electric Daisy Carnival, just like our last episode with Pascal. Funny story, there's one thing in particular I remember from the EDM Biz Expo, and this will always stand out to me more than, my conversations with Pascal and more than my conversation with Armin. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably know who Marshmello is. Well, you probably don't know who he is because he wears a fucking giant marshmallow on his head to, make sure no one knows who he is, but you probably have heard of him and know of him. Anyway, he was doing some keynotes there. He was doing some speeches and what have you. And anywho, I go to the bathroom, take a leak, and who should walk in behind me but Marshmello. Of course, he goes to a stall, does his business, comes out a minute or two later and just walks right out the door. I'm like, oh man, Marshmello, you're not going to wash your hands? You're not going to wash your fucking hands, Marshmello? And it really breaks my heart that, if anyone is gonna get Rona, it's gonna be Marshmello, because dude just needs to up his hygiene game. I mean, it really breaks my heart. So anyway, my point is, do you think Marshmello poops out those little mini marshmallows? A few years back, when I was writing with Ultra Vulgar Superfiend, we did an expose and looked at all the type of music that Marshmello makes, and we looked at, the people he surrounds himself with, what label he's signed to, yada, yada, yada. And we determined exactly who he actually is. We actually found out the true identity of Marshmello, and it's not, we were surprised because it's not who everyone thought it was. And that information is out there. I will put a link to that article in the show notes if anyone's interested in the real Marshmello. So back to Armin. In this interview, Armin talks about the evolution of music, how culture and technology help evolve his style. The last question I ask him during this interview is if there are any kind of relatively unknown, underground, independent artists, if he thinks that he thinks are on their way up. And if he wants to give a shout out to them. And, this interview being back from 2016, I recently rewatched it, and I was really blown away by some of the names he dropped. So that's really interesting. The kind of like, where are they then and now? Anyway, all the show notes at ryanstabile.com. That's RyanStabile.com. I'm not gonna make a new website for this fucking podcast. Don't ask me to do it. I've just built so many fucking websites in my life. It's just exhausting. It's so formulaic. But if WordPress wants to come out and sponsor me, that would be dope. Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. Okay, one last thing before we listen to what Armin has to say. I was very lucky to be able to sit down with him and have a quick chat in the first place. And, it's not because he's some EDM legend or whatever. He had just finished the keynote speech at the EDM Biz Expo, which was, just him standing on stage by himself and speaking to a mic for about 45 minutes in front of 12 people. So the last thing he wants to do after that is sit down with this dorky-looking white boy and continue to talk. Also, Armin was supposed to start his performance at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway less than an hour from the time this interview took place. And since the EDM Biz Expo is at the convention center in Caesar's Palace on the other side of town, I practically had to kidnap Armin in order to have this conversation that we had. So for any of you listening, if you have a pretty good idea of how Las Vegas is laid out, then you know that there is no possible way to get from Caesar's Palace at the Strip to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway on the other side of town, especially during EDC week, which traffic is just, LA gridlock times 1,000. The locals really dread it every year. But no joke, I literally had to lead Armin, once he got off stage and once he finished his keynote speech, I literally had to lead Armin by the hand to, any empty room I could find, basically. And this is, I pretty much date raped Armin van Buuren. This is the music journalism equivalent of date rape. So my point is that we ended up taping the interview in the catering storage room in Caesar's Palace, where they store all the cups, plates, silverware, shit like that for when they cater events. By the way, the food they prepared at the end of the EDM Biz Expo, delicious. Oh my god, so good. If they ever do that again, that would be pretty much the only reason I go back. Anyway, the room was empty when I dragged Armin in there against his will, but luckily I was able to sit him down and, feed him some quiche and bruschetta, and then he was completely cooperative after that. Now the question is, did I lace the bruschetta with enough Molly and ketamine to put R.D. Lang in a coma? That's not what's important. That's not what's important. What's important is that I got the interview. And even though, as a result of my selfish actions, because I felt like date raping Armin van Buuren in a storage closet at Caesar's Palace while 100,000 people are chanting his name in front of an empty DJ booth at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, I may have made him late. And I may have made all those people wait. And I also may have fucked up the all the time slots across the entire festival that night, because Armin's gonna get his 90 minutes, and Marcus Schultz is gonna get his 90 minutes to perform. You better fucking believe that Above and Beyond are gonna get their full-time slot. And so who's gonna bite the bullet, and whose time is that gonna come out of? But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that throughout the course of this interview, you're gonna hear, you know, people come in and like caterers or busboys or whatever the fuck come in, and they bring in the dirty dishes and they take out the clean ones and stuff like that. So I wasn't expecting that, but, you know, we had to deal with it during the interview. I mean, they clearly see me sitting there, you know, with a microphone in this guy's face and, you know, a camera pointed at him. And then, you know, these bussers or whatever are still just like, you know, coming in. One of them walks in front of the camera at some point. That's fucking annoying. We had to edit that out. I don't know. It's Las Vegas. It is what it is. So, yeah, without further ado, Armin van Buuren. Enjoy.
Hey, it's Ryan Stabile here at XTV. I'm here at Armin van Buuren at Electronic Daisy Carnival 2016. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. So we're at the EDM Biz Expo, and you just gave a panel. What do you feel about the EDM Biz Expo? What did you learn here today?
I guess it's not so much what I learned about it. Well, if one thing I learned is that there's a lot of passion for dance music right now. So, you know, it's sort of being taken more and more seriously by the fans and by the media and by the labels. It's become this industry, you know, whether you like it or not, whether you hate that or not, it's become this phenomenon, you know, and I'm just blessed and humbled to be a part of it.
So do you feel like when you first entered the music industry, maybe it wasn't really taken seriously by the media?
No, and I'm not saying that. I don't say it's not being taken serious. It's just the scale of it. It's just grown massively.
Absolutely.
You know, you can have those that has pros and cons, but it's just more. The scale is just bigger and bigger, and it's just. I mean, a lot of times, especially in the beginning, people look down on dance music, you know, as a reflex or whatever not. But I think more and more people understand now that dance music is a way of life. It's a passion for a lot of people. You can't really deny that, I guess.
No, you really can't. And I feel like that's always going to be a thing within, hardcore fans of different genres of music. They're always going to look down on one another, and it's never really going to go away. But over the years, obviously there's a lot of passion for EDM fans, EDM lovers. How do you keep the passion as a DJ, you know, being a veteran DJ, performing for so long?
It's just purely music, man. I mean, I still feel the music, and it's really hard to explain on that. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but it's just almost impossible to answer that question. It's a gut feeling. I mean, every week I do a radio show, and trust me, it's hard work. If you do that for 15 years every week, so it's almost day in, day out you work on finding new music. But every week there's a track that I'm like, whoa, or wow, you know, it really happens every week.
That's great. So how do you keep up with the changing music trends?
I love watching, being a spectator in the whole music industry, and that's constantly changing. I think it's almost a necessity for music to still exist, to constantly change. You know, the only constant is change. Also goes for music.
That's true.
I mean, we people are human. We like to put things into boxes, right? This is trance, this is house, this is techno, whatever. But it's funny that music only becomes interesting as soon as you start combining elements from different styles. And actually, that's the only way for music to survive, and it's happened throughout all the centuries. If you closely look at, for example, the Beatles, 1964, when they released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, they started using a Moog synthesizer on a Beatles album. I mean, the synthesizer, when it was first born, was considered a devilish instrument. It was considered to be negative. It was something bad, you know. And then the Beatles used it on their album, and it became cool. So it's kind of that kind of thing, you know. You have to have an open mind to the new technologies out there, to the new styles. To me, dubstep is basically happening from the knowledge of jungle, of two-step, of speed garage, of combining all those elements, added with the new added possibilities of Ableton and all that sort of stuff. You get that sound. So I think technology has had massive, especially on dance music, has had a massive impact. New plugins, new sounds, constantly, you know, making things better. And I think dance music now sounds better than 15 years ago. I don't know if it's necessarily better, but I mean, some people are really close to a certain time when they really loved certain tracks, which is fine, obviously. But I think the overall impact of certain drops and certain sounds and certain synths so much better now because we were able to control them better.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved. So, what sort of emerging technology do you feel will be the most influential on dance music in the future?
I don't know.
Like plugins or technology or
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people right now are sort of a nostalgic resurgence of analog gear and analog stuff. And there's something very true about the analog stuff. I mean, digital is great. It's able to reproduce, but it has something cold, And we like analog because it sounds, distorted. You get harmonics that we human beings perceive as pleasant. It's really hard to really predict the future for electronic music, but it's going really fast. That's all I know. New plugins and new sounds are being developed almost every day, and it's really fun to watch and fun to learn.
Yeah. Is there anything you particularly have your eye on that you think will be influential or has influenced you in your recent music?
Everything. I mean, I'm very much. I'm a fan of all the new software, new plugins that are coming out. Ableton or anything. I have Cubase. I have Ableton. I have Pro Tools. Recently I've been fooling around with Break Tweaker from BT on Isotope. I love the UAD stuff. So I really try to have an open mind to all the new stuff that's coming out.
So looking back on your career, today, just looking back on, you said in the panel, I'm a human being, I'm an artist. I put out some good albums, I put out some shit albums. I've been in this industry for years and years. But looking back, how have you seen your own music grow and evolve throughout the years? And what do you think influenced the change in your music over the years?
I think most importantly, and maybe not such an interesting answer, but it's the truth, is just the technological development.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of reading Sound on Sound magazine, Future Music, all the websites that are out there. Just keep them close. Ableton has made a massive impact. The CDJs from Pioneer had a massive impact. The Axis Virus TI when that came out, or the Axis Virus that came out, had a massive impact. UAD plugins had it. So all the releases of those products have influenced my sound in a way. So, actually you can see the tracks that I made as snapshots from my setup at that point. I mean, I wouldn't even be able to recreate a track like Shivers or Burn with Desire simply because I don't have the equipment anymore. Yeah. At that point, the track was made with that specific setup. And I think that's a logical thing. It's just a necessity. It's just something that's very normal, organic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a natural evolution. And the other day I was watching one of your sets from 10 years ago, and watching a set from today, from when you see 2005, for example, it's like watching a completely different artist. And I think that is primarily due to the technology. Am I right?
Technology, I change as a human being. I'm being influenced by other music styles that I listen to, and I want to keep it interesting for myself as well. I can't repeat myself. As proud as I am of my past successes, I mean, all my songs are my babies, whether the songs are good or bad, or successful or not. This is something that's just really, really important to me. I have to keep it exciting for myself rather than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So, before either you sit down for a long production session or before you get up for a long live set, do you have any rituals that you like to do?
Not really, but thinking about it, maybe yes. I always have these, the week before I have to do a really long set, I always get into my zone and I really start digging into the music that I collect. Every day I collect tracks and I save them in my personal folder and I have a certain order for that. And it's very important for me to organize the music. So yeah, I guess my ritual is just really scanning through what I have and what I like.
Yeah. You kind of go back to your old catalog of songs?
Old, new, I download, buy, mash up every day. That's my life.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning and next to my newspaper and my cup of tea, I'm making a mashup.
Fantastic. So, last question: Are there any small independent artists that you're really digging out there right now? Do you want to give a shout out to? Show some love.
I mean, seriously, man, there's so much talent out there.
There really is. I mean,
there's a couple of my guys.
You're feeling right now. What kind of? I don't want to say what kind of genre, but I mean, like what's trance?
Marshmello, DJ Marshmello from Australia is doing some amazing stuff. I'm a big fan of what he's doing. Orjan Nielsen still rocking it for me. New Dutch guy called Willem de Roo, really on fire.
What's his name?
Willem de Roo.
Okay.
Really like his
I'm not going to try to pronounce that, all right.
Yeah, Willem de Roo, you would say probably.
Okay, yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I'm forgetting a lot of names now. Dennis Kenzo, Mino Safi, Rodrigo Deem, Heat Beats, so many guys.
So what kind of, are you throwing any of these guys into your set here at EDC?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Fantastic, looking forward to it.
Cool.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Wasn't that fun, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for listening. You can find pictures and video from this original interview, including the show notes at ryanstabile.com. That's RYANSTABILE.com. I'm not going to make another fucking website for this podcast. You can go fuck yourself. You can find everything on my own website. Next week I'm going to look at some of the interviews I did at Electric Zoo, New York. So that is a good, fun collection of prominent musicians. We got Jason Han, which I think is going to be in the next episode, from String Cheese Incident, Ioto. I mean, the dude's worked with like hundreds of award-winning musicians. It's really amazing. But more about that next week. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and stay safe, y'all.